Welcome to Strategy Sessions by Thirsty Bandit, Episode 5 Vibe and Aesthetic.
Greetings, everybody. This is Corey, and I'm here with Rachel Brown, and this is another episode of Strategy Sessions. We actually are going to pivot a little bit today. I've been
Mhm.
reading a lot of articles about tasting room design and aesthetic and vibes, and
Mhm.
I went down this rabbit hole, this like vibey rabbit hole. And
Okay.
I just feel like it needs to be covered in one of these topics because I mean, you and I aren't interior decorators. However, I think we've been to probably more tasting rooms than the average bear.
Hmm.
And I think we all sort of take an inventory and like curate we have like a mental Pinterest board,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
That we feel
Yeah.
these
We're
aesthetics out of.
plugging and playing as we go to places and yeah.
Yeah, and so I started doing more research, particularly with younger demographics. There's emerging
Hmm.
consumers, the younger drinkers and non-drinkers, and what they value when they go out to have a bite to eat or a drink. And I keep falling on the vibe concept,
Hmm.
the vibe term. Vibes are like a real thing, like a real
They are.
tangible thing for people.
Yes.
And I think we all do it though, right? I mean, we all look for vibes. I mean, I just think that the younger demographics are a little bit more vocal of the fact that there's more they put more value into it maybe than others.
Yeah. I mean, even like when you walk into a place, the way that it's set up, the decor, the color, the lighting, what's on the wall. Is there like a fun mural piece? Is there like an Instagram wall? Like those things are like people come in now, I think, and they're like very focused on like what these things are to kind of create it enhances the experience, it's true. But I think a lot of places are hit or miss depending on what the vibe is. Yes.
Yeah, and it's funny because in our previous roles at Chatsford Winery, we actually created a wine called Good Vibes Only, which I thought is sort of hilarious now,
Hmm.
looking back. But I also thought that there was another takeaway from that time that was very interesting, which was we were for really a decade trying to position the brand more as a lifestyle brand than necessarily a local winery. I mean, we were
Hmm.
trying to curate elements both in tasting room, digital experience, user experience, UX that we've talked about in a previous strategy sessions. All of it was really meant to embody a brand that sort of transcended what was in the bottle, right? Whether
Hmm.
that's the merch we sold, the events that we created, the experience that people had in the tasting room. But that vibe definitely goes beyond the four walls of a tasting room. And I go back to it now thinking, wow, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I mean, we were already valuing this, but I think it's even stronger today in 2025 that it needs to be a focal point for wine industry business folk to focus on.
I think so because it's cyclical, right? Like for us, when I pick a winery, like yes, the style is important, but I'm reading a wine list. For somebody who is maybe not as deep in the industry, they're looking at what's the view, what does the tasting room look like, what are my food options, maybe a wine or two. But this like bleeds into everything now, right? Because like first of all, you're bringing people in, and then you want them to talk about the experience and like what they're seeing. So this goes into, I think, like the social media side of things of like what people are posting, like the pictures that they're taking and then posting represent your brand. So when they're there, having that kind of vibe, literally having that vibe there for them goes a long way because then somebody else is going to see, wow, that's really cool. I love this. Let's go. And that's like bringing people in again and again. So, like, the product is one thing too, but I think the space that you create is also going to be what enables people to come back over and over and over again.
And as wineries, you're producing the wine for obviously wine drinkers, but as we
Hmm.
know, and as it's been documented very well, your younger demographics, there are so many other competing beverages, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic,
Hmm.
infused RTD, you name it, that it,
Yep.
we're all vying for the sort of the same market share. But what I found really interesting was New York Times did a piece last fall, and one of the things that they had said was that some Gen Zers and young millennials say that culture and aesthetics of wine meld with their lifestyle, whether they're drinking or not. So they themselves are saying, wait, is this a cool place? Is this a cool brand that I want to associate? I might not drink wine myself, but
But do I want to link myself to it? Right.
right, right. Can I see myself hanging out there? Can I
Hmm.
go there and enjoy it even if I'm not a wine drinker? And I mean, again, you and I know, I mean, we consult on this, right? I mean, you can't
Hmm.
only focus on the wines that you're producing in your portfolio as what your menu offerings are. It's
Right.
imperative to have NA options, mocktail options, craft beer options, cocktails, sort of all of those things will help support your vibe, your
Hmm.
positioning, your lifestyle brand positioning, which should again be a natural extension of really what's on the label and what the digital UX is and everything else. But man, that vibe piece is so
It's
important.
huge.
And yeah, I just again, I was doing a lot of reading this past week and came across several articles. The other piece that I wanted to call to your attention is the fluidity of a tasting room where
Hmm.
it's not necessarily a sit down experience.
Hmm.
There was another article I was reading that was talking about, post pandemic, people just want to hang. They don't
Yep.
necessarily want the pomp and circumstance of a sit down experience. So a tasting room should allow for fluid movement, or at least give the impression that you don't need to stay in your seat for the entire time. If you see people
Hmm.
that you can get up, you can walk to the bar, you can order from the bar, you can order from a server, you can explore a little bit more. So, again, not being so regimented, and this feeds back into the vibe concept too, but not being so regimented as we have guests come in, they have table service, they're seated. Now, some people want that and you could still deliver that. But in most instances, again, particularly with younger demographics, that freedom to move about the cabin is important, I think.
Yeah, I think like having the choice when you walk into a place, and like I think there's a point too where like maybe too many choices is overwhelming, but like you have those sit down intimate tastings for the people that are coming in that want that experience. But for someone who is coming in with a group of friends, they want to sit and hang out, then to be able to create, something that allows them the freedom to move around, if it's bottles or glasses, if it's a different kind of, tasting setup, if it's the flight module where you can kind of let them do their thing and kind of back off. I think having that ability to offer for every single person that comes in, you're going to have people that are going to return to that because they know, hey, you know what? We did a really cool tasting last time and it was super informational, but this time we're looking to hang. Or maybe they are looking to up their game. They've come a couple times, they're looking to do a more formal tasting. You have that option. So I think being able to almost like a la carte a tasting experience is what's going to keep people feeling like they're not doing the same thing every time, or they're like forced into a box that maybe isn't right for them.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny too because that tasting room, that fluid movement tasting room environment or wine bar environment where you have a bar and you have high top bar seating,
Hmm.
it's honestly, it's typically cheaper to execute than a full sit down space. However, you don't want to lose sight of that. And the other piece to this that I think is important is that your sit down seating should allow for some degree of like semi-private, intimate experience because if they are sitting down, the last thing they want to do is hear the party of four next to them getting you jabbing away, right? I mean, if they came for that, then more than likely they would sit at the bar or they would sit at a high top. But they're coming for a different experience
Right.
than what that other space is affording them.
Yeah, to be able to offer different spaces for different things, if it's a private room, if it's a semi-private room, if it's booking times to kind of separate some of those things out. But if you are here, I mean, you go to restaurants, there's a difference between sitting at the table and at the bar. There are two separate experiences. So to walk in and be like, now we just want to sit and do this, then you have that option. If people do want to do something that's more formal or a little bit more educational, then to have the space that can kind of cohesively bring the rest of the vibe in, but be able to kind of curtail that to the people that walk in. Like, I think kind of that fluidity or being able to pivot is kind of like the name of the game. You know what I mean? Like, you need to be
Mhm.
able to, as soon as that person walks in, be able to guide them to that correct experience, whether that is hands off or it is more hands on and more involved. That needs to be an option all the way across the board.
Seems to be a host or hostess superpower, right? I mean, make them earn their
Yep.
money a little bit
Yep.
and
Like, what do you,
read and react.
yeah. Well, really, I mean, like I mean, they're your first line of defense anyway when your experience starts. Like, your experience starts as soon as you open the door. I mean, actually, it starts as soon as someone looks at your building and then they move in because the
Yeah.
aesthetics of the outside matter. And then you come in and then you meet your host, and like, that's it. That's gateway one of your experience. So if they cannot help you figure out what your experience is going to be, it's going to probably infinitesimally go down from there. So that is really your shot caller for the day, to know what
Yep.
people are looking for and then to be able to navigate from there for what they're looking for.
And it all affects what the final bill total is going to be, whether or not
100%.
they're going to leave with a bottle or join your wine club or follow you on social media. It all
Come
starts with the
back.
vibe, man.
Yeah,
It all starts
it
with the vibe.
does. 100%. It really does. I mean, it's that first person sets the tone, the aesthetics, everything is going to enhance their experience. And it's the intangibles as well. The things that people maybe aren't thinking about, they will be the things that people take home and then remember when their experience is done.
Absolutely. Well, if any of you out there want to, vibe a little bit more with Rach and I, you're welcome to drop us a note. We'd love to hear what you find as being those key elements that makes the vibe, the aesthetic worth coming back over and over to a specific place. Give us some examples. We love to learn
Mhm.
as much as possible of what's going on out in the world. I mean, we can only get to so many places. I mean, there are only so many days in the year for us to go and visit others. But we'd love to hear from others if you have any thoughts on that. And this was fun, Rach. Just a
It
quick
was
one,
fun.
just a
It
little bit
was,
on the
yeah,
vibe.
yep. Just a little off the cuff, but it was great. No,
Yeah.
it was awesome.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much.
Cheers.
Thank you for vibing with us on Strategy Sessions. We hope to see you next time.